Hi there, I'm Tracy Smith, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. We begin with the unforgettable story and indomitable spirit of Gabby Giffords, brought to you by Ben Tracy.
In terms of your recovery, how do you feel about where you're at?
I'm optimistic. It will be a long, hard haul, but I'm optimistic.
That spirit is what made the former House Democrat a rising political star.
The immediate need for a comprehensive immigration reform package.
And now powers her push to end gun violence.
Since what happened here in Tucson, there have been so many, countless mass shootings in this country. Does it feel in some way as a country we've just kind of accepted that this is going to happen?
No.
We shouldn't.
No.
Yeah, we shouldn't. Sometimes it might take us a little while to get to it. But, no other country on this planet is as good as solving problems as the United States of America.
No turning back. Fight, fight, fight every day.
There's more from their conversation coming up a little later in the show.
What is it like for you to be the subject of a documentary?
Amazing. COVID was hard. Mass Zooms, no hugs, but the COVID was fantastic. Visiting my mom, speech therapy, my bar mitzvah, riding a bike, and a whole lot of singing.
A lot of singing.
A lot of singing.
A lot of singing.
You do like to sing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that presented a little challenge because they didn't plan on having all that music in the documentary.
Then Serena Alstschl catches up with one of this century's greatest abstract artists, Sean Scully.
Where will this go?
I'm going to show it in a museum in Copenhagen.
Scully's works are celebrated internationally, and even though some have fetched millions, Scully hoards hundreds.
How many warehouses do you have like this?
5. If I like something or I can still learn something from it, I don't want them going out.
Yet, like his paintings, it's all still a work in progress.
What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered by and for having done?
Yes, the legacy question.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. Gabby Giffords, you'll recall, was shot at a congressional campaign event in 2011. Her recovery, supported by her husband, former astronaut and current Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, has been long and difficult. But as Ben Tracy shows us, nothing slows the spirit of Gabby Giffords.
The sun will come out tomorrow, so you gotta hang on till tomorrow. Come what may, tomorrow.
If you spend some time with Gabby Giffords, you'll likely be treated to a tune or two.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain, Shenandoah River.
But in her speech therapy sessions, finding her words can still be a challenge.
But the whole crew was fantastic.
Because of a brain disorder known as aphasia.
Aphasia really sucks. The words are there in my brain. I just can't get them out.
And yet, she has never lost her voice.
Stopping gun violence takes courage.
Or her unyielding optimism.
My spirit's strong as ever. I'm still fighting to make the world a better place, and you can too.
Giffords has been fighting every day since January 8, 2011, when a gunman opened fire at her Congress on Your Corner event in Tucson, Arizona. 19 people were shot, 6 died. Gabby Giffords was shot in the head.
In terms of your recovery, how do you feel about where you're at?
I'm optimistic. It will be a long, hard haul, but I'm optimistic.
That spirit is what made the former House Democrat a rising political star.
The immediate need for a comprehensive immigration reform package.
And now powers her push to end gun violence.
Too many children are dying. We must do
something.
Look at you.
Her improbable journey is at the center of a documentary aptly titled Gabby Giffords Won't Back Down.
I love to talk. I'm Gabby.
Sometimes I think the word inspired is overused. It's certainly appropriate to Gabby. It makes you feel like, wow, if she can do that, look at what challenges I might take on.
Right.
But filmmakers Betsy West and Julie Cohen admit they were worried whether this project would even work.
Was there any concern about her limited ability to communicate and being the subject who has to carry a documentary?
Yeah, absolutely.
Big concern. Is Gabby's story going to be too depressing?
Happy birthday to.
But then we met Gabby.
Happy birthday, dear Gabby.
This is the most extraordinarily resilient, ebullient, adorable, hilarious, musical human being you could ever get to know.
How about two fingers?
The film shows each often agonizing step of Giffords' recovery.
Gabby, are you frustrated?
Much of it taped by her husband, former astronaut and now Arizona Senator Mark Kelly.
What in you said we should document this?
The reason I did it is when you have an injury like that, you're not going to remember the early days of rehab and recovery. And I wanted her to be able to, see what that was like.
The skull.
The skull.
No, that's not her real skull. Yeah. Because if this was your real skull, you'd be in really bad shape.
But that shows how much they took out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gabby, America thanks you.
After the shooting, she gave up her seat in Congress.
Hello, my fellow Arizonans!
And then in 2020, Mark Kelly took up her mantle, running for Senate to complete the term of the late John McCain.
He's tough, he's smart, he works just as hard as I do. Well, almost.
His entry into politics has led to a surprising role reversal for the couple.
I was there for her, through the recovery, month after month, year after year. And now with me running for the United States Senate, I've got an expert, at that with a lot of great advice. It's a long to-do list, but I'm used to those.
Slow down.
The checklist for flying the space shuttle stands about 6 feet tall. The Senate, though, is not NASA. Arizonans sent me here.
Slow down.
But Arizonans sent me here to talk really slowly because that's what Gabby Giffords wants. When I was on the floor of the Senate giving that speech,
it's a long to-do list, but hey, I'm used to those.
I could hear Gabby in my head saying, slow down.
Slow down.
How do you think he's doing?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Dangerous people with guns.
For Giffords, gun reform remains her priority through her organization that advocates for universal background checks on gun buyers.
Be bold. Be courageous. The nation's counting on you.
When President Biden signed the first significant gun reform legislation in nearly 3 decades, that measure was not included.
Do you think that was the best you could get? And if so, is that all we should expect?
Well, I think there's something to be said for compromise. I think our country is a better place when Republicans and Democrats can work together to solve problems. This is an issue that makes our country stand out in
The worst of worlds.
Yeah, in the worst of ways. And it's something the American people want addressed. And we did this with this legislation.
Since what happened here in Tucson, there have been so many, countless mass shootings in this country. Does it feel in some way as a country we've just kind of accepted that this is going to happen?
No.
We shouldn't.
No.
Yeah, we shouldn't. Sometimes it might take us a little while to get to it. But, no other country on this planet is as good as solving problems as the United States of America.
No turning back. Fight, fight, fight every day.
Gabby is one of the most courageous people I have ever known.
At the White House, Giffords received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her advocacy.
Because of her, lives will be saved and America will be safer.
And while it's tempting to dismiss her optimism that we will end our country's plague of gun violence as either naive or just stubborn, you then remember the long odds Gabby Giffords has already beaten.
For me, it has been really important to move ahead, to not look back. I hope others are inspired to keep moving forward no matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what.
We'll have more exclusive excerpts of Ben Tracy's wide-ranging interview with Gabby Giffords and Mark Kelly coming up a little later in the show. But up next, the colorful geometric grids and minimalist stripes of artist Sean Scully. His signature style of alternating colored stripes and squares can be found on gallery walls worldwide. Here's Serena Alstschl with a look at the life and legacy of abstract artist Sean Scully.
I use very simple structure, but how I paint it and what kind of personality it will have at the end is unknown to me.
Chances are, when Sean Scully paints, it will look something like this. Geometric, colorful grids, stripes woven together. His signature style.
Hey, Sean, why stripes?
Yeah, exactly. Why stripes?
It's so neutral, so old, it's archaic. You basically have to wake it up, or you have to transform it. I'm trying to give it some sort of spirit.
This year alone, those stripes will be the subject of 13 solo shows around the world. The largest among them, a retrospective at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. It follows the evolution of this artist, now widely ranked as one of this century's greatest abstract artists.
He's using more square ones over here.
Scully's personal history, however, is less linear than his works. Born in Ireland and raised in London, Scully says he grew up in poverty, briefly belonging to a street gang as a teenager. Yet he found a way to night school, where he was drawn to painting, and this work by Vincent van Gogh.
I found a painting that I thought was so crude that even I could do it. A chair that you can find in a junk shop. It was nothing fancy about it. The whole thing was inhabited with humility and devotion, and that touched me very deeply.
Soon after, the framework for his own style began to line up, when inspiration struck again while visiting Morocco.
I went making scribbly paintings, and I came back with stripes. It was just like this.
I imagine all the mosaics and the geometry.
It was exotic geometry.
4 decades later, and that affinity hasn't changed.
These are just perfect, ready to go.
Primed.
Here in his Tapan, New York studio, Scully continues to reinvent those lines, finding inspiration in nature and even other works of art, like this piece by J.M.W. Turner. And more recently, during the height of the pandemic, he incorporated black squares.
I set it inside an abstract landscape. So this was a way of saying, I don't know what comes next. None of us knew what comes next.
Where will this go?
I'm going to show it in a museum in Copenhagen.
Scully's works are celebrated internationally, and even though some have fetched millions, Scully hoards hundreds.
How many warehouses do you have like this?
5. If I like something or I can still learn something from it, I don't want them going out.
Yet, like his paintings, it's all still a work in progress.
What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered by and for having done?
Yes. the legacy question. I'm very committed to putting some depth and soul and emotion into art, hoping that will be useful to people. My legacy will be what people want it to be.
In Gabby, that's, here's, somebody who was kind of on top of the world and everything was taken away from her, but she was not going to let that keep her down. And she was going to bounce back.
More from Gabby Giffords up next. Stay with us.
Across our country that experience horrible and horrific.
Welcome back. As promised, here's more from Ben Tracy's talk with Gabby Giffords and her husband, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly.
One of the things that really struck me in the film was to see how independent your lives were before this happened. You in Washington, being a congresswoman, you with your job with NASA. Obviously, things have changed dramatically. How has this changed your marriage?
The same. LA, Chicago.
I think what you might mean is the same in that there's still a lot of travel.
Yes.
For both of us. It used to be a lot of that travel was DC, Houston, Tucson.
Right.
Sometimes clockwise, sometimes counterclockwise, right? And we'd be going now because of I'm serving in the United States Senate. Gabby with her work at Giffords, we're also all over the place all the time. So it's similar in that regard, but we never lived together like permanently when we were dating, when we were engaged, after we got married, until
The house.
until January 8th.
Oh, right here.
2011. Oh, until we got this, yeah. Well, no, in Houston for about 6 months or so, but until that day.
And so it really did change how much you interact, how you interact, obviously.
Changed, some things, for the good. We had to, live in one place, I would say, is one of the positive, things that came from that. But there was so much, about it that was so much loss for the community here in Tucson, for so many families. And Gabby's career in Congress, my career at NASA and in the Navy. I was in the Navy for 25 years, and I left the Navy, because of what happened on that day.
What is it like for you to be the subject of a documentary?
Amazing. COVID was hard. Mass Zooms, no hugs, but the COVID was fantastic. Visiting my mom, speech therapy, my bar mitzvah, riding a bike, and a whole lot of singing, a whole lot of singing.
A lot of singing.
A lot of singing.
A lot of singing.
You do like to sing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that presented a little challenge because they didn't plan on having all that music in the documentary.
So Senator Kelly, I realize you guys hadn't seen it until just recently. I mean, how did you feel about it once you finally saw the documentary?
Well, I thought they did a fantastic job. They spent, seems to me, I mean, how long do you think it was?
2 years. 2 years.
It would have been 2 years of them working on it. They'd come out here, they'd spend some time with us.
The gym.
Went to the gym with Gabby a number of times, but went out to her mom's and just even spent some time with us in Washington, D.C. and some other places. When you're doing it, you don't get a sense for how something's going to turn out. And then they get, you just load them up with every piece of video that you could find. And they were able to get some stuff of like Gabby, when she was a kid, I didn't know existed. Even stuff of me when I was a kid. When my brother and I were really little, I didn't know that video was around. I never saw it from my parents. I still don't know to this day where they found some of this stuff.
Wow. I mean, you really do trust somebody else with your story. So in some ways, that must feel a little risky or a little nerve-wracking.
It is. There's a little risk involved.
Yes.
You remember what there's a guy in D.C. who we were very close to, who often has good advice. And one piece of advice he gave me, you remember this?
No.
He says, don't let anybody ever make a documentary about you. So why? He says, because you're not going to have any control over it. and you're probably not going to like how it comes out. Despite that, because it was these two women, Gabby and I have, and especially, I mean, we both have a lot of respect for RBG, and RBG is, you know, Gabby's, Gabby's ultimate hero. This was a little different, felt right. And despite there's a little risk involved, we decided to do it, and we're really happy with how it came out.
Watching all of that, was it hard to relive any of those parts of your life?
Oh, so sad. What? Chicken, chicken, chicken. Chicken, chicken, chicken.
That's in the movie.
Yes.
I remember that.
You know, Gabby would get stuck and perseverate over, you know, certain words. It's part of having aphasia from her traumatic brain injury. And early on, she would perseverate on the word what, and then the word chicken, thousands and thousands of times.
But look how far you've come. That doesn't happen anymore. Sometimes.
Not on those words.
Different words.
Yes.
There's no, you don't do any perseverating, but you know, it's challenging.
Yes.
I mean, aphasia is challenging.
Yes.
It must be very frustrating.
Yes.
Hard.
Yes.
What are you hoping folks will learn from this or take away from it?
Yeah, I hope, you know, people that watch this are like inspired by a, you know, somebody who, you know, in Gabby, that's, you know, here's, you know, somebody who was kind of on top of the world and everything was taken away from her, but she was not going to let that keep her down. And she was going to bounce back. And, you know, there are folks that, you know, across our country that experience horrible and horrific injuries and illnesses every day that they have to overcome. And I hope it inspires some of them to not give up.
It is inspiring because those moments in the video where you're clearly frustrated and sad about the state of progress, to see you here now so confident, it's a great transformation.
We're a team. We're a team.
I'm Tracy Smith. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next time on Here Comes the Sun.